observe, it's clear that we can't deliver on that original vision for PvE that was shown in 2019. What that means is that we won't be delivering that dedicated hero mode with talent trees, that long-term power progression. Those things just aren't in our plans anymore.
Shade, I look at this, and I looked at that roadmap, and basically it tells me that the Overwatch is coming to an end for me. I think after Season 6, I probably will pivot away from Overwatch. Probably start moving away after Season 6, because
all of Overwatch. It was about a year and a half ago that we made the decision to really shift strategy. A year and a half ago? Hold on a second.
The story of Blizzard is such a sad tale. It's like that old saying, you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. Never before have I felt so let down and betrayed and so disappointed by a company that I had so much faith in. Just like me, a lot of people trusted Blizzard, but now I don't trust Blizzard or anybody associated with Blizzard, and I know a lot of people feel the same way. I don't know if Blizzard is going to be able to recover from this, let alone soar like they used to. I'm CloudRaids and welcome back to the channel. Let me tell you a tale about Blizzard, about how it lost its people along with the trust of its player base. Before we talk about how Blizzard lost the trust of its fan base and really the downfall of Blizzard, we gotta talk about what made Blizzard Blizzard. What made Blizzard so well known and so beloved to the millions of people that played its games. To find the answer to this, you have to go back to 1994. Blizzard released its biggest game at the time, Warcraft: Orcs and Humans. It's safe to say that this game was huge. It revolutionized the MMORPG genre as a whole. But that was just the beginning. They'd go on to sell millions of copies of Warcraft and all its sequels, StarCraft, Diablo games, and eventually they'd land on the biggest hitter of all, Overwatch. If you don't know what Overwatch is, Overwatch was a 6v6 champion select game where you had certain objectives that you had to do within that certain match. The main roles were 2 tanks, 2 DPS, and 2 supports. The thing that made Overwatch stand out the most was that it was the first big FPS game that allowed you to switch out your characters mid-match, allowing you to counter the enemy team's picks or even help change up your pick to synergize with your teammates. But not only was the game itself very fun to play, another big key feature was the lore behind it, the meaning of Overwatch itself. Blizzard would go on to release these cinematic videos that really built up a story behind the game. It created a whole universe that gave the game meaning, a whole lore. Now remember that, because this will come in handy soon. With all that being said, saying Overwatch would be a big game by Blizzard would be a huge understatement. The game going on to win Game of the Year in 2016, and even developing its own professional esports, this game was breaking records. The only thing that we've even seen close to Overwatch at the time was maybe League of Legends and Dota, but that was just because they had a champ select. But even then, the games were just so far completely different, I don't even know if you could compare the two. So it's not like Blizzard has been hated and frowned upon for a while now. This is something very recent. We've seen their past success before and the stuff that they can do when they really care. So how do we go from this once beloved gaming company to the same company that just completely destroyed their own game along with its player base? The answer really begins in 2019 with the announcement of Overwatch 2. After this announcement, the Overwatch devs would unofficially go silent, meaning that Overwatch wouldn't get any more updates, no more content except for Echo, which would be the last character dropped for the game. Instead, they're going to spend this time working on Overwatch 2 so that they could make the best game possible and make this game even better than the one that came out in 2016. The big thing that they promised and that really made this game a sequel was that it was going to have a story mode, a PvE type of game. They were going to take all those cinematics and all the lore that I mentioned earlier and turn it into an actual story mode. A great way to wrap the game up and finally make a big part of that community that loved the lore and all the cinematics that they pushed really hard and turned it into an actual core part of the game. Stuff like tech trees and new missions and all kinds of stuff were being promised for this game. And that's only the single player part, the PvE. A whole bunch of stuff was supposed to be switched up with the PvP, which was originally the main part of the game, and even graphic updates, and a whole bunch of stuff were promised to make this game an actual sequel. So with these promises from Blizzard and the devs themselves, the players were more than happy to wait. These players were playing waiting Overwatch for years without content updates, and they were more than fine, because they were promised a good game, and boy were they patient. These people are loyal. So after all that waiting, 3 years later in 2022, without any content, Blizzard announces the release of Overwatch 2, the new game that they've been working on for over 3 years. With this new game being released, they shut down the original game, the regular Overwatch, with the release of this Overwatch 2. And when it came to launch day for Overwatch 2, well, it was a total disaster, to say the least. It took multiple days before anybody could actually get into the game. The servers were terrible. There were like multiple thousand people in queue, so even if you did wait that entire time to get into the game, your game might just completely crash. But that's okay. Plenty of good games have bad releases. This is Blizzard we're talking about, a small indie company, and to be honest, this would be the least of your worries about this game, because once you finally did get into the game, the big part that everybody was waiting for, the PVE, the story mode, it wasn't there. It's not in the game. So far, Blizzard has made the community wait 3 years for any kind of content, release the game, players couldn't play the game, they finally get into the game, the main thing that they promised just wasn't there. What was there? There was new graphic updates. They also took away a player from each team. So instead of a 6v6, it's now a 5v5, with 1 tank instead of 2 now. Even that in itself could be found very controversial depending on who you ask in the Overwatch community. A lot of people hate the new 5v5 and would rather just have the 6v6 back. So a lot of people say that they've already screwed up there. But Blizzard did have a response to the PvE. They said that it was going to be delayed a little bit, but it was going to be released later on into the year. So that's okay, we're still going to get it, it's just going to take some time. That's alright, at least we have content for the game that we once loved. So far, Blizzard's having a rough start to the game, and people are kind of mad. What else could go wrong? Well, when you look at the market, it gets even worse. The original Overwatch had a loot box based system where you could either buy loot boxes or you could get them for like just playing games, and it was kind of like a little reward. But in Overwatch 2, they completely took those away. And in any other circumstance, you would think this is a good thing, because loot boxes have a very bad reputation when it comes to the gaming community. But the way Overwatch 2 did it was just terrible, because you went from being able to possibly get free skins to paying at least $20 just to get a different chroma for a skin that you probably already have, just with a different name. They were getting more lazier and lazier with each skin that came out. Hell, even fast forward to these recent skins that are coming out, with the collaboration of Cowboy Bebop, you would think this would look great. Especially being a huge anime fan myself, I found myself even wanting to play the game again just because of this collaboration. Until you look at the skins and you wonder what the hell is this? What is going on with this hair? How could they do Spike so dirty? Once again, it's just pure laziness. At this point, it's just starting to look like Blizzard is falling apart at the seams, going from a company that puts so much work and time into their game to what we have now. But at least we're still getting that PvE story mode that would actually turn it from just being Overwatch to really being a fully fledged sequel. And yeah, no, we're not getting that either. After months and months of waiting, Blizzard finally announced that we're not getting that PvE story mode. We're not getting the skill trees or the tech trees. We're not getting any of that. Matter of fact, they knew 1.5 years before they even announced that they're not getting a PvE mode. 1.5 years, which means they lied consistently to everybody. You're gonna get this game mode, don't worry, just give it some time. You're being impatient, give it a little while, you'll get the game mode. We're not working on your game because we're making the second game that has a new game mode. It's safe to say that the gaslighting was on a whole nother level. I feel like Mason from Black Ops 1, and at this point, I don't really know who to trust anymore. To the point where it was hard to get footage for this video because I don't want to touch the game with a 10-foot stick. A part of me still wants to play the game because of just nostalgia, but then I come back to my senses and I'm just utterly disgusted, even at myself for thinking about getting on the game. I wish I could come on here and tell you that Overwatch is dead, or maybe that Blizzard is dying, but it's not. Overwatch on a 24-hour period still has around 40,000 players, and that's just on PC. While Overwatch is definitely past its hype, and you might be able to consider it that it is dying, but it still has a decent player base. And by all means, I want it to die. I'll be completely transparent with you, I am an Overwatch 2 Blizzard hater. I have no reason to lie, because the lies and betrayal by Blizzard are just too much for me to take. I expect something like this from EA, but from Blizzard, that hit me out of left field. By Overwatch standards, it's definitely not doing as good as it used to, but I don't think it's down enough to justify the game as dead. Maybe it might be dying, but even then, the nostalgia of what used to be is so far deeply ingrained into people's hearts, and the fact that it's free to play now, I don't see this game going anywhere, at least not anytime soon. And while Blizzard's newer releases like Diablo 4 haven't been doing too well either, it still has games like Warcraft and Starcraft to fall back onto. So I guess it can afford to abuse Overwatch, but while doing so really showed its true colors. So I think that a lot of players, including myself, got hit out of left field because you don't expect something like this from Blizzard, at least not before. To me, Blizzard wasn't a company like EA where you would expect to be scummed out of your money. You know that you're throwing your money down a dark pit, that's just something you gotta grasp. But when it comes out of nowhere from something that you feel like you really trusted and that you had hopes for, it hurts even more. So will Blizzard be able to recover from this? I'm not sure, especially with the rise of these indie games and these indie companies. There's been more pressure than ever on these AAA companies. If Blizzard is ever going to make a comeback in the way that it used to, it doesn't have long. Blizzard isn't dead by any means, but all eyes are definitely on them and not in a good way. But with all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what y'all think about Blizzard down in the comments below. Maybe y'all don't mind Overwatch 2, I don't really know. Those are my thoughts on it, and that's just to catch y'all up if y'all don't know much about it. I love you guys, and I'll talk to y'all next time. Have a good day, and once again, maybe have a good night.